Today's topic is sleep deprivation. It's 8:45 in the morning, and the students at York Mills Collegiate Institute have begun their class. Many show up to class tired and yawning. What seems to be the problem here? Teens today face a common chronic health problem: sleep deprivation. In our society, teens are among those that are the least likely to get enough sleep. It is said that the average teen needs at least 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep per night, but in reality, many average fewer than 7 hours. Getting enough sleep allows optimal performance in school and health and brain development. Young people that don't get enough sleep night after night are at risk of emotional and behavioral problems such as irritability, depression, poor impulse control and violence, health complaints, impaired cognitive function and decision making, and lower overall performance in everything from academics to athletics.
I usually wake up around 7 to 8ish. I live a little bit far away from school, so I have to get up a little bit earlier than everyone else. I get driven by my dad, and after that, in terms of my bedtime, I try to go to bed around 11 if I can, but it's grade 12, a lot of projects and assignments, so sometimes I might have to stay up, but I try to go to bed around 11, 12ish if I can.
Recent studies have shown that adolescent sleep patterns differ from those of adults or kids. These studies show that during the teen years, the body's circadian rhythm, or the internal biological clock, is temporarily reset, telling a person to fall asleep later and wake up later. This change in the circadian rhythm seems to be due to the fact that the brain hormone melatonin is produced later at night for teens than it is for kids and adults. This can make it harder for teens to fall asleep early. Studies have shown that teenagers would benefit from a later school start. To help sleepy teens, it may be desirable for school districts to delay the opening of the high school day.
Even though I go to school always on time and I wake up pretty early to go to school because I live right there, I still feel that school would be more effective if it was a little bit later, because we'd be more energized as students and then we'd be more willing to pay attention during the morning.
Usually I wake up around 8 o'clock. Most times I wake up around 8:15. Class starts 8:40 or 8:45. So I think it's best to have school around 10 o'clock, because when I get out of bed, I'm not really awake when I go to school. So I feel like if we start class around 10 o'clock, it would be more reasonable, because people will be more awake and people will pay more, absorb more knowledge.
In terms of late school starts, I definitely do believe that we should have late school starts, because teenagers, our bodies function a little bit differently. We need to sleep. Usually, I read this in this article, teens, we need around 8.5 hours of sleep. So because we have a lot of projects, everyone has to stay up late. Therefore, we need to sleep, or else we can't function in the morning. Especially if, let's say, you have that calculus class in the morning. So yeah, definitely, if we have late school starts, would be better.
Mr. Mahoney, a teacher at York Mills, offers us his opinion on the idea of school starting later.
I think later start to school time would be good for students. Everything that I've read and PD that I've taken about the adolescent brain suggests that students would be more effective at learning and starting a little later in the day. So I think it would be good for students. As an individual, I wouldn't be thrilled about staying later in the day or starting later. I've got things that I want to do after school, but for adolescent learners, it would be the best thing.
The principal of York Mills also shares her opinion on the idea of a later school start.
Well, I have to say that I have very mixed feelings about it. I think, having done an awful lot of research on the adolescent brain, and having done research on the need for sleep for teenagers, it may be a good idea to start school later. I know that in this school we do have an awful lot of students coming in later on after school starts. I don't know if it's a manifestation of parents dropping students off later, or students sleeping in and the parents running them in at the last moment. But it's certainly, I would think it's certainly worth looking into. I know that that there's a school in the TDSB who's starting at 10 o'clock every day, and 10 or 10:30, and that is Borden Business and Technical Institute in Scarborough. So that school is starting a little bit later because they were trying to deal with the problem of kids coming to school late on a daily basis. So this is the very first year that they're doing it. Once the results are in from that school, then we can better look at that data and determine whether we should try maybe another school that has huge late issues to start school later. But I have to say, as far as the research is concerned, it all points to the same thing, that students need their sleep. They need to get up to 10 hours sleep a night to be functional for the next day. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're saying to kids, get up early, rush out of the house, and they often do without breakfast, to rush out of the house to make it to school on time, and then they sit there in the classroom half asleep for the first period of the day. So I don't know if that's going to make a difference. Research says it will, but I don't know in actual practice if it will. So that remains to be seen.
What are some ways teens can get more sleep? First, they can start by turning off their TV at night. The TV noises and flashing lights will only keep you from getting a sound sleep. And if you can remember anything you hear during your sleep, it's a sure sign that you're not sleeping well. Also, try switching to caffeine-free drinks. Reduce caffeine by switching to something healthier, like bottled water. Or if you want, try a caffeine-free version of your favorite drink. Limit after-school activities. It's hard to do, but try to limit your extracurricular activity. Decide once and for all if good performance and your university potential is important, and then set priorities. Sometimes you just have to make a hard choice and stick to it. Don't think too hard before bedtime. If you have calculus homework, you might not want to put it off until night. It's harder to relax and get to sleep when your mind is stuck in the deep thinking mode. It takes a while to unwind, so maybe you should tackle the hardest subject earlier. The same goes for crazy video games. Video games may also cause your brain to enter the overdrive zone. If you play video games, don't do them just before you go to bed. Turn off the cell phone. What's so important it can't wait until morning? Unless you have a really good reason, turn it off and get some rest. Keep track of time. Often students have great intentions, but other tasks seem to keep them up late time after time. That's because teens have to develop an understanding of time management and task completion. Start keeping track of things you do routinely and the amount of time needed to do certain tasks. Then plan ahead so you can get to bed on time. Play music if you want, but not too loud. Many people play music at night. If it doesn't bother you, then go ahead. Don't play it too loud though, or it will disrupt your sleep. Lastly, do you really need that after-school job? This might be a really tough decision too. Some students need to work so they can pay for car insurance or save up for university. You'll just have to decide on your own what's necessary and what's not. Although there has not been a decision whether to start schools later yet, but what is clear is that the society has yet to realize the growing concern of sleep deprivation within adolescents, and it is important that there is a solution to address this epidemic issue.
If school started later, then that means I wouldn't be late every day.